When my grandmother, who I call Mimi, talks about her grandparents' life in Ireland, I picture the hazy, luscious green fields which swallowed the loam, the rocky and rugged roadways that connected hillsides with homesteads, the culturally diffused art and architecture that flourished through cities, cathedrals richly carved with stone crosses, and the Palladian-style public houses that welcome hospitality during all hours of the day. 19th century Ireland was not so welcoming for my great-grandparents. 19th century Ireland was a revolving agricultural epidemic in late autumn of 1845. The potato blight made its first appearance, causing failure of crops. Overnight, potato fields turned desolate with blackened vegetation. In a matter of a year, 1 million people starved to death. By the following spring, typhus, a bacterial infection, raged through cities. Starving men roamed the countryside. Servants lay dead on public walkways, smoldering in the earth. Typhus started to subside, leaving a weak population of healthy workers. In 1847, Britain's two prime ministers, Lord John Russell and Sir Robert Peel, established a deliberate extermination of Irish natives. They believed the only solution would be depopulation. Irish grain was exported to England. Families in need of food were left with nothing. Deliberate starvation had occurred, not merely famine. Later that year, British rule began importing foods back into Ireland, supplying retail stores with large quantities of Indian corn at a higher price than before. Indian corn was dubbed as Peel's brimstone. This was due to the rigid yellow corn that needed to be grounded twice to be digested. Charles McNAMARA, my great-great-grandfather, was born into a grieving country, placed into a nomadic lifestyle. He never got to meet his neighbors, as they were never present. Public housing was boarded up, inhabited by rodents. Beautiful courtyards and cathedral nurseries were unkept. Ireland was ailing of culture.
I went to the archives here in Washington. I found the passenger ship from a ship called the Utoria, which left Queenstown, Ireland, which is now Cove, Ireland, which was approximately 250 miles from where he lived in Ennis, which is in County Clare, to board the ship to come to the United States. The reason he came, obviously, was for a better life, for job opportunities. Remember, the history of Ireland speaks a lot about the famine, the Great Famine.
In 1895, Charles McNamara collected his few belongings and headed to Cove. This is where the ships were docked and later boarded. In 1899, Charles boarded the Utoria with only $20 on his person, heading towards an unfamiliar land. The Cunner Line RMS Utoria accommodated 550 first-class and 800 second-class passengers. Utoria was leaving Queenstown, heading towards the ports of New York. Charles landed in New York. Life in the fast-growing American Republic was very different from the Irish lifestyle he had known, leaving a Catholic country for an overwhelmingly Protestant belonging, with no relevant skills or education. Rural frontier regions were largely inhabited by Irish immigrants during the 19th century. Many of them disliked the rural isolation due to being afraid of losing consolations of their religion. Charles had trouble leaving New York, as many of the famine immigrants were incapable of moving beyond the ports. He used every dollar of his own, taking multiple trolleys to Philadelphia. Philadelphia was a promising area for work. Industrial districts supported a vast array of mills and plants centered around textile and clothing manufacturers. Many of the Irish immigrants were placed at the bottom of the occupational ladder, many working as porters, carters, waiters, and domestic servants. Due to the prejudice on the Irish, even unskilled jobs were hard to find. My great-great-grandfather was fortunate to work his way up the hierarchy and land himself a job as a gas fitter. As Philadelphia grew into a mecca for incoming immigrants, violent anti-Catholic riots of the 1840s inflamed the cities once again during the early 1900s. Years later, the previously know-nothingism took its revenge on immigrants. Churches in particular gained further control. Philadelphia became a model for religious tolerance. Neighbors became identified by their nationalities. Places like Southwark, Manmincing, and Kensington were areas especially known for their Irish inhabitants. Faith strengthened, giving room for men like St. John Newman and Bishop Kendrick to build schools and churches for the public. Charles McNamara no longer had to hide his name. This was where he wanted to start a family. In 1909, Charles met Angela Cusack, my great-great-grandmother. Angela was a woman who had a life very similar to that of Charles. She was also very religious, baptized in St. Mary's Church by Reverend M.O. Gorman. Angela loved poetry, as did Charles. She often stowed away in her room, writing stories of the dreamy wonderlands she wished to see.
Ellis Island, and then probably came by bus or train and settled in Philadelphia. They lived in West Philadelphia. They were very religious. They were very Catholic, so their life was centered around their church.
Charles George began a long career at Philadelphia Electric Company and would sell shoes on the side just to make an extra dollar, as his father would. Charles George later got married to Irma Hayes, also of Irish descent. Later, my great-uncle George and grandmother Eleanor, or Mimi, were born. Constant visits they would take to Charles and Angela's home, enjoying lovely dinners of roast beef and browned potatoes, with ice cream and Canada Dry ginger ale on the side. As vinyls rotated, memories would compel the room, giving light to the polished silverware. Even after years of isolation and grievance, Angela and Charles filled every room with the gift of life. Every visit to and from the McNamaras brought a little peace and light to everyone's world. All that the McNamaras knew was that life had an end, and with this, they had to overcome all their pain and doubt and accept the reality. This is where they were able to create their dreams. The McNamaras surely worked through their struggles to set up a life they would be proud of. And on April 5th, 1956, Angela passed away at the age of 86. Charles eventually died on October 29th, 1959, at the age of 92. Catherine, Angela, and Charles all lie in St. Denis Cemetery, Havertown.
O land of love, we bless thee, gentle mother. O land of light, that you love the sea. O land of joy, where brother shall meet brother, and all thy souls shall dwell in harmony. And when the clouds of torment and of sorrow flee with the dark at rising of the sun, and shall clasp hands in happiness tomorrow, when we have learned that all who dwell